Hey, well, welcome to At Home with Dan Biggar. You are at home. How are you?
Not too bad. Just about coping and managing and things. But yeah, it's just that feeling of not knowing when anything's going back to normal or anything like that is the hard thing at the minute. But it's yeah, life's okay at the minute. How about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it's strange. I spoke to Sol Bamba almost 5 weeks ago now in this kind of first series, and you think, oh, it'll be a couple of weeks, but it's just, I think everyone, no matter what profession you're in, it's just that not knowing. And obviously being
Yeah,
a sports reporter as well, it's been a strange few weeks. I should be preparing for Euro 2020s. Well, not really, reporting.
yeah.
Also I was playing, but no, but it's been strange, isn't it? But no, thank you very much for joining us. I've been wanting you to get on the list for a long time, so thank you very much. And it's just kind of the whole point at home. Obviously, we talk about current situations, but we reminisce a little bit because I don't know about you, but this period of no sport, I've actually loved watching old sport. I spoke to Ryan Giggs about his time at Man United, and it's been a bit nice actually. So it's been quite nice.
Yeah, I watched the Ryan Giggs one. It was really interesting. It was quite obviously being a Man United fan as well. It was very very interesting, and he actually came down to training and was it during the six? I think it may have been Six Nations or autumn, and had a good chat to him then and things, and obviously just everyone sort of stopped training and was sort of starstruck by Ryan Giggs watching training. So yeah, that was a highlight for us probably in the last year.
But just talk to me about what you've been up to, really.
What have I been up to? Well, I've got a 2-year-old little boy who doesn't allow much sitting down and resting time during the day. So we've been pretty busy. And especially with the weather being so good, we've been out in the garden. He's got like an outdoor car. He's been in literally for about 8 hours, what it feels like 8 hours a day. So just been really, really busy with him. And actually, it's been quite nice to be able to spend some time at home with my wife and my little boy, because we're away or in training so often that we very rarely get the chance to do it. But it's been really nice to do that. And we've also bought a coffee machine during this period, so we are trying to sort of use this period as a perfecting our latte art and coffee making skills. So I would say at the minute we're like a 5 out of 10, and we're hoping by the end of lockdown we're going to be up towards an 8 or a 9 out of 10.
What's your go-to art? Is it a heart or is it a cat?
It's a heart, yeah. Well, at the minute we're very much beginners, so I reckon a heart is like the start for us at the minute, and we're sort of we're okay. My wife is better than me actually at the minute, so I've got a bit of catching up to do. But so that's kind of been quite a good thing, which we've allowed ourselves to splash out on and enjoy. And I was listening to the radio the other day, and what people were saying was what they're missing most is sort of having a proper coffee sort of thing. Someone said they went to a petrol station and got a Costa machine coffee, and they said it was the best thing they tasted for like a month. And so we feel a bit spoiled actually having a coffee machine in the house during this period. But yeah, that's about it really. Coffee and looking after a 2-year-old.
It's strange, isn't it? From my playing days and almost now as a reporter, the sporting calendar is a bit like a school year, isn't it? It kind of comes and goes. It's repeat, repeat, repeat. For you, you've been in the game for so long now, your 30s. Most of your life you've been playing, or over half your life you've been playing rugby. Talk to me about this period and what it's kind of made you think about really in terms of rugby.
Well, I was listening to the radio and someone was asked, it was a Lancashire fast bowler who was on, and they asked him, what have you learned about yourself during this lockdown? And for me, I've learned that even though it's been really nice being at home and just chilling and spending time at home, I think what I've learned is that I really need like a structure, because I'm not the greatest trainer in the gym or anything like that, and I'll only sort of train really because it leads to a game on a Saturday sort of thing, which is what I'm more keen on doing. So I think I've found that I really need like structure. So if I've got a training session at 8 a.m, I know that I've got to leave the house at 7, get in, do some prep or whatever, and train and then come home sort of thing. So for me, it's been a little bit, even though I've been taking over and everything, it's been a little bit as and when you please. And I think for me, it just made me realise that it's just not, I just need that structure in terms of, and I need the facilities to use and things like that. And just that's been the biggest thing for me, I think. It's just, the days just seem to just they all seem to be the same, don't they? Every day seems to be the same at the minute, and it's quite nice to sort of, you know, my wife gets excited on a Thursday morning as a Tesco shopping day, so that's like the key part of her week at the minute. So, and it gives her an hour away from me in the house as well, so that helps as well.
So, Dan Biggar, when you retire, you're not going to be doing these Ironman challenges like, you know, Shane Williams and stuff then?
I would be very surprised if I was doing anything like that, yeah. I can't see myself. I mean, the guys have done, like people like Shane and Ryan and people like that have done unbelievable stuff and for charity, and they seem. I always laugh because Ryan Jones in particular, he must have been the worst trainer in the squad when he was playing, and now he's retired. He's turned into the best trainer in the world. So yeah, I can't see myself going down that route.
I was going to talk to you actually about the rugby community, a bit like any kind of sport. Obviously, no one can play any team sports, but especially in Wales, obviously rugby is our national sport. And you've seen so many examples of the rugby community and teams individually coming together to support different charities. That's nice, isn't it?
Yeah, it's absolutely huge. I think it's, you know, that's what it makes you realise, I think, at the minute, that sport is so important to so many people, but ultimately the bigger picture at the minute is you know, saving lives and the rest. So I think it's just really nice that people who've got a profile in the country and things can just use that. I think that's the most pleasing thing. People, you know, I know that the social media gets a lot of stick and probably rightly so on times, but I think it's been a really helpful tool in this period to be able to raise awareness, to show people what they're doing at home, and raising money for great charities has been a real sort of plus. And the lads are, you know, whether you're contributing, whether you're doing exercise, whatever it is, I think it's hugely important. And yeah, it's a huge effort.
A couple of the football boys, Matt Grimes and Saul Bamber, both said that, you know, away from, you know, being away from the clubs and their jobs, say, they kind of appreciated, you know, the sport that they kind of went into as a youngster. Do you feel that?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I think we're very privileged in the job, you know, football players or sports people in particular, that we get to sort of do a job that we love, really. And I know probably when you're in training, or when you've got a slightly longer day, or you're not winning, or whatever it is, you tend to sort of have a bit of a moan and a groan, and you know, a coffee after training, and complain about everything that's wrong with your job, and probably like everybody else in the country. But I think during this period, I think it does make you realise that, you know, we're very, very fortunate to do jobs that, like I said, we would have given our left or right arm to do when we were growing up as kids. So it does make you appreciate it. But if I'm honest as well, I've actually quite enjoyed looking forward to a weekend even though there's no sort of sport for us to watch or anything on at all like that. But it's been really quite nice not having any pressure on you on a weekend, not having any expectation, and you know, because we're kind of, that's something I'm looking forward to when I retire, is sort of almost working or looking to do stuff Monday to Friday, and then really looking forward to a weekend. Not that we don't look forward to it, but it would be nice to go and watch someone else perform on a weekend or whatever. So that's been quite nice for me, actually, just being able to sort of, when it gets to a Friday evening, knowing that you haven't got to worry about performing on a Saturday or a Sunday.
Do you think that comes with the position you play as well, especially being the Wales number 10? Because it's a bit like, you know, England football, you know, the centre forward, you know, the Wayne Rooneys, the attention and the pressure, there's so much on you, isn't it, as the number 10s?
Yeah, there is. But I've said before, I think if you're going to play the position number 10 in Wales, you have to realise that that's what it entails, sort of thing. And if you're not cut out for that, then you're better off finding another position, sort of thing. So I actually really enjoy the actual responsibility of it. Is something that I enjoy, and I think that's what I've found, especially over the last few years, that I've just tended to take it all a little bit more in my stride, because you're never going to please everybody in the country or everybody watching and things. There's going to be people who say you can do this better or that better. But for me, I've kind of just thought, well, just relax and enjoy, and what you know, you've got to back yourself and you've got to back your ability. And but I would say that playing 10 in Wales is probably a lot to do with, if you're mentally tough and things, you look at two in particular who are absolute greats of the game in terms of Stephen Jones and Neil Jenkins. I think they had obviously tons and tons of skill and ability, but what they had was a real edge to them and a real sort of mental block, because they both had. Everyone thinks of Steve and Neil as having just perfect careers and never making a mistake or never getting any stick off the media or anything like that. And in actual fact, if you play 10 for Wales, it's very much a roller coaster, and you've got to accept that.
And how much of a ride have you enjoyed it? Because obviously, again, with being number 10, especially in the last few years, there's been players coming to the position. But what I always love about you, and I'm not just saying this because I'm speaking to you, is that, especially against England last year, you came on and there's this look in your eye, which you just know that you're just going to change a game, or you've just got a bit like, I don't know if you're watching the Michael Jordan documentary, you just have that look about you. Do you feel that?
No, the Michael Jordan documentary is the next to watch, actually. When I get 5 minutes to sit down, that's my fun to watch. But do I feel? I don't particularly. I feel like I can. I feel like I know what I'm good at in terms of in my position, and what I feel like I've got a good understanding of the game and what's required in the game and what I can do, and I know what I'm good at and what I'm not so good at, perhaps. So I think for me, I think I'm just aware of. I think the biggest strength I could say for me is I'm aware of what I know, what I'm good at. Whereas I'm not going to try and be anything that I'm not. So when it's required to be or to do what I'm good at, I think that's when it's just comfortable and comes naturally to me. And I think I've got this. I understand the game pretty well, and it's just understanding what sort of. When to pull the trigger and what button to press and things like that, really. So that's been the big thing for me, especially in the last couple of years or the last year or two.
That's what I was going to say to you, because like with any, athlete you speak to, you arrived on the scene at 19 for Wales, but, and you had that kind of youth, kind of excitement. There's kind of no fear. But I think in an athlete's journey, when you seem to realise the responsibility, when you get more than maybe 10 caps, you kind of realise that, one cap isn't just enough and you want more. Was there a point when you realised that your strengths and maybe your weaknesses, or has that been later in your career?
I think it's been later in my career. I think, in actual fact, since I've joined Northampton and worked under Chris Boyd, he's been really, really, really good for me in terms of what he said. What he keeps reiterating to me is that he wants me to be what I'm good at. He wants me to be the best in the world at, but what I can improve on, that's what he wants me to get that sort of 5-10% better on, which will complement the rest of my game, sort of thing. So I think maybe in my younger years and first maybe 15, 20, 25 caps, whatever it is, I would think that I have to do everything perfectly, and by that I mean I have to be the perfect run-in 10, pass-in 10, kick. Everything has to be done perfect, and if there's a mistake that's been made, then you think, I sort of used to think, that's going to get picked up on in the press, or people are going to be groaning about that in the stadium, or your friends are going to take the mick out of you for that, or whatever it is. Whereas I suppose in my last 15, 20, 25 caps, I've understood more, and it comes with experience, and you realise how to deal with things. But I've realised that the amount that you're involved in the game, it's very, very rare that you're not going to make a couple of mistakes or make a wrong decision or put the wrong pass or whatever. So for me, I think, if I have sort of 50 to 60 to 70 instances in a game, well, if I can get the majority of those right, then it puts the team you're in a position to be winning or in a better position to win a game. Whereas if you get the majority of those wrong, then obviously you're probably not. So for me, I just sort of thought in the last, and Chris has been really good at this in Northampton, that he doesn't care if I make 15, 20 errors in a game. If you make 3 or 4 key moments and good moments, which leads to points or tries or field position, and he'd much rather me take a risk in my game and I think that's the big thing, not be afraid to take risks. And I think that's what's helped me over the last couple of years, not thinking that everything has to be perfect, and realising what you're good at and what you're not good at.
When you think of a couple of instances where you've just gone, screw it, I'm just going to kick this ball, make a pass, is there any in your mind you think, right, straight off, I remember that. I remember how risky this could be, but it paid off.
Yeah, I think once this year, when I was playing for Northampton, I did just a flick pass behind my back, and I think probably again without Chris's words in the back of my head, thinking, because I caught the ball sort of a little bit flat. I was probably a little bit out of position actually, so I had to just manufacture a bit of a pass around the back. And I thought, I've also then thought I never would do that in a million years, in terms of probably without someone like him saying it doesn't matter if you make mistakes and it doesn't matter what you're after in terms of that. But so that would be something which I thought, and luckily it came off. And you can always go back to the ones that come off. But I remember I did one a few weeks later, and I can't remember who it was against. And it went to the floor, and the move was messed up and everything like that. But when I went into his office on Monday, he said to me, I'm not bothered about that at all, because the one you did a couple of weeks ago led to a try and was important for us. So something like that. And actually for Wales the last couple of years, I've noticed that just the ability to take penalties. So if we're lining up a penalty to touch, and if there's space on the far side for a crossfield kick or something like that, it's not being afraid to do it. And if it doesn't work out, okay, well, you're probably going to get, your teammate's going to be a bit cheesed off with you or whatever. But it's that ability that sort of, when it does come off, it's going to be really beneficial for the team. And I think for me as well, I think even though I'm saying that this has been great for me and it's changed me a little bit, I think it's got to be one of those options where it has to be kind of on 7 or 8 times out of 10. If it's just a 1 in 10 shot and you're doing it repeatedly and you're just chucking the ball to the ground or wasting possession, then it's not beneficial for you, or it's not beneficial for your team. So I think when you're in control and when there's an option to do it and you know that you can execute the skill, then that's, that'll be probably when it's on and when it's the right call, or when you decide to do it.
Do you think that move to Northampton's unshackled you a little bit in terms of, the cauldron of Welsh rugby and being in within the Ospreys?
Yeah, quite. Yes and no. I think even though I moved away from Welsh rugby to get out of the Goldfish Bowl, and soon found out that Northampton is a rugby mad town anyway. So I kind of swapped one for the other. But no, I think in fairness, I think what has been really nice for me actually is not, even though every game is covered and you've got media outlets at every game, but if we're playing Newcastle away, for argument's sake, on a Friday evening or a Sunday afternoon or whatever, then it's, I know that every Ospreys game was played. You'd know that, you'd have the Welsh media and everyone would be sort of tuning in and rating your performance out of 10 every week and things like that. And for me, it's just been really nice to go up there in a different league, test myself out and realise that, that rugby in Wales is, it's very, there's only 4 teams here. So all the focus, and obviously the national team is the main focus, but all the rugby, you're just focusing on 4 teams. So there's less players to sort of praise or critique or whatever, and whatever way you want to look at it. Whereas in England, there's 12 teams, lots more players, lots more, overseas players who come in, things like that. And, you're not under the microscope every single week. And we're living about 20 minutes from Northampton, so halfway between Oxford and Northampton, and it's not particularly rugby orientated. It's quite sort of out the way, and it's a small little town. And if you've had a shocker on a Friday night, you can walk around Tesco's, absolutely no problems whatsoever. No one's really going to come up to you and say, what the heck were you doing last night, or what happened last night, and things like that. So that's been quite pleasing actually, and quite nice. Did
you get that in the Ospreys when in Wales? Did you get people coming up to you saying, "What on earth was that?"
Yeah, you do, because again, everyone in your area is very much focused on the rugby and watches the rugby and every game's televised as well in Wales, so you can watch. Everyone sort of has an opinion, and I think that's what makes Wales great in terms of how passionate everyone is. But sometimes when you're just going in to tell something, you don't really want to have full chapter and verse of, I'm sure when accountants or lawyers or whatever get their weekend or go for a drink or whatever, the last thing they want to talk about is numbers or court cases or whatever like that. So sometimes it's quite nice to, and I found that in my latter years as well. I found that I've been much better at leaving rugby at home. I'd rather arrive 2 hours early and leave an hour later from training. But if it means that I've got the evening to spend with my family, or to go out and have a drink, or to go out and have some dinner or whatever it is, I would much rather leave work at work and then pick it back up the following day or when you come back in on Monday.
Now, I want to talk to you as a fan of rugby in Wales, not as a player, which may be a little bit difficult, but I grew up watching, Cardiff and the Pontypridd and the Swansea players clubs. Now, obviously, the regions have been around for a long time now, and there's so much chat about, their existence and going forward. Having now played in England in a club system, how do you feel, side by side, regions versus clubs, and where would you like Wales to go, really? Difficult one.
It is difficult because ultimately, in Wales, you've got probably between Llanelli and Newport, however far that is, 100 miles or so or whatever, then that's kind of all you've got in Wales as rugby. Whereas in England, you've got clubs, and also the game is still so young in Wales in terms of regions when you compare it to clubs, to Irish clubs, to English clubs. And I think what the difficulty is that you've just got, every game in the Premiership I've found. This is what I found. I'm not saying for any way that the quality is better in the Premiership than it is in the Pro 14, because you've only got to look at teams in particular like Leinster, and you look at how good the Scarlets have been over the last couple of years as well in terms of the quality of players they've got and things. So the quality is not any different, but what you've got is an intensity and an occasion and a game every single week, which matters. Now, this is coming from someone who's played in the Pro 14 or played for a region for 10 years, and you find that sometimes games you could sort of turn up at 50% and get the job done. Whereas the difference I found in this league is if you're at 50%, you're more likely than not you're going to be on the end of a hide-in sort of thing. So yeah, for me, look, the region. You look at the region squads, and each squad is very, very competitive, and they've got quality international players in pretty much every position. But what sort of is hurting, what I found looks like is during that international period, it's a real struggle for the regions where they lose all their best players, and perhaps haven't got the strength in depth. That was certainly something that when I was playing for the Ospreys, that we probably had as good a team, 1 to 15. To compete with anybody, but when you get a couple of injuries, boys away with international and things like that, you just probably that strength in depth is probably a tiny bit below. But like I said, the quality is no different. It's just that intensity, and every game, there's a crowd. It's a big occasion, and for me, that was something that excited me about moving to Northampton.
Yeah, and obviously with the coronavirus now, sports future is at a question mark, and rugby and regions, we don't know where that will go because of the amount of money they will lose. But what are your thoughts on a British league? Maybe combine them all together.
Oh God, I'm not sure. I think that's very much above my pay grade, but I'm not sure. I think what the English will argue is that they've got a product which is working extremely well for them, and I suppose they'll want to keep it that way and things. I think in concept it would be great, but in terms of how you get it done logistically and everything would be a pretty difficult task. But yeah, for me, I've sort of moved the Premiership, so I don't have to fly to Scotland and Ireland every week. So if it comes back in, I'll be gutted. I can't sleep in my own bed for more times then.
Yeah, and in terms of your club career, would you like to finish off at Northampton, or have you got any ideas where you'd like to finish? You're just going.
To be honest, I think I didn't have. I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do. I've loved my time in Northampton, and it's been the best, probably the best thing I've done in my career so far in terms of testing myself. But I didn't know before all the coronavirus and everything came on. I didn't know what my next move was, and I think this has thrown probably a lot of boys' career and decisions into the mix. So yeah, no idea whatsoever. So I'm just hoping that someone will give me a job at the end of my contract in Northampton, and we'll see where we go from there.
Fancy a stint in Japan?
Well, God, yeah, I don't know. I'm nothing's off the table, but I don't know. I really don't know what the next stage is. Honestly, I'm so happy in Northampton at the minute. I'm loving it, and I suppose it's just something I'm really glad I've done, because it's been a breath of fresh air going in there for me. The coaching staff and the players and everything, they've made me feel young again almost, and really sort of, I don't feel like I'm a 30-year-old experienced international going in there. I feel like I'm a 21, 22-year-old having to really sort of play catch up and and keep up with the desire and the skill of all the young guys there. So it's been great for me, and who knows what the future holds. It's I think everyone would like to see what the future holds at the minute, but nobody's probably in that position.
And to be fair, every time we see you play for Northampton, you look like you enjoy it. And I think, with any sportsman or woman, whatever part of the career, that's what you want to do. Ultimately, that's why you got into the sport, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think especially when you have the good times, it's really important that you enjoy them. And when your team is playing well and when you're winning and you're playing well as an individual, you have to make sure that you enjoy it, because there's been so many times in my career where, your team isn't winning or you're not playing well, and you tend to sort of, it's human nature, isn't it? You tend to beat yourself up probably more in the bad times than praise yourself and enjoy the good times. So I think that's been something that's been really good for me up there. It's a good environment. The way we play is obviously is helping us in terms of the enjoyment, and I think every day I go into training, it's the sessions are different. We've created a really good culture there, and we're nowhere near perfect, but what we've done is, I think for me anyway, I enjoy going into work every day, and I think if you tick that one off, then you're in a good position to go and achieve what you want to achieve professionally then.
Yeah, brilliant. And I think we're going to leave the club bit here, because I'm going to go back and reminisce a little bit about playing for Wales, because you have been part of some incredible moments. Now, you started when you were 19, you're now 30, and that is such a long time in terms of a rugby career at the top level. From looking back now, can you believe that you've been in the game for that long at that level?
Yeah, I think it sounds a long time when you say that, actually. But I think I came in when I was 19, and I had sort of a year, maybe 2 or 3 years where I was a little bit in and out of the squads, and I've been the first to admit my performances for club were good, but I probably never really quite transferred that performance or that consistency of performance for club into the national jersey, and obviously when you've got players like James Hook and Stephen Jones around you, if you're not playing exceptionally well, it's very difficult to stay in the team. So, but I think it's, when you look back, it's a long time, and I've sort of, I suppose you take it for granted when you're in the moment, and when you look back and you realise how many good, we've had some really good times, and I think we get really, really well looked after in terms of as a squad. We get anything we need is provided, and it's just, it is the best feeling in the world, running out to the Principality and, for a Six Nations game, or when you're playing the All Blacks or whatever. It's a special feeling, and it is different to what you play for your club, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think I heard a story about when you first started the Ospreys. I think you were either going to go out on loan or something, and you marched to the office and said, "I'm going to be Wales's number 10." And there was that kind of attitude, which I think put the coaches aback a little bit. But they've always praised your mentality and your willingness to want to be the best. And where did you learn that from?
I'm not sure. I've heard. I think Sean Holly said that, hasn't he, a few times? I think he's added a little bit of poetic license with that one, but no. I remember.
That's Welsh for you, eh?
Yeah, I walked in. Where was it? It was in the Liberty Stadium actually, and I got told that somebody in England had offered at whatever I was, 15 or 16 or whatever, and somebody had offered good money for a 16-year-old, and all of a sudden your eyes light up and you think you're going to be a millionaire, but this time next year sort of thing. And I just went in. I said, look, I don't want to go, but I want to be here, and I want to prove to you that I can play here and everything. I think that's sort of stood me in good stead moving forward. That I've got that, I suppose, the confidence to be able to back myself, and it's not always portrayed. Sometimes, certainly in the early days, in the right way, and it's not always everyone's cup of tea. But for me, it's just about having confidence in myself to go on and just back yourself, because especially in the position that I play, and other outside halves and tens will tell you that you need to have a little bit of a swagger about you, and you need to have a bit of confidence and not an authority really, because even if you're saying the wrong thing, if you say it with authority and you make it clear and concise, sometimes it turns out all right, and everyone sort of believes that you know what you're doing and running the show. Sometimes it's very much scrambled in there and things, but I think that's been the big thing. And it was just, like I said, that was a really, and I loved my first few years in the Ospreys. I was I was playing alongside sort of, Shane Williams, Tia, Marty Holler, Mike Phillips, so all these people, I think if I hadn't come into the team with those good players around me as well, it would be difficult compared to, say, now when you come into the team and you're trying to make your name and break through, where you perhaps haven't got that quality around you or the experience around you to guide you through stickier moments.
Yeah, and I think it's like interesting what you said about kind of, as that 6-year-old, because I think when we speak to the likes of Mike Phillips, they came into an era of rugby where it was, you could play it professionally, but you certainly weren't going to be able to retire on it and maybe, go elsewhere. As the years have gone on now, it's a lot of money. How is that for you growing up as a kid in rugby in Wales? Did that have a kind of a viewpoint, or was it just the game for you?
I think again, when you're in school, or when you think you want to, all you want to do is be a rugby player or whatever, you never sort of think of, you don't think of it as a job. And when you're, like you said, when you're young, you haven't got a care in the world. You haven't got, you're still living at home with mum and dad, and you're still sort of, getting food put on the table for you and everything. You just think this is great. This is the best thing in the world. But as you get older, you have mortgages, you have bills to pay, you have everything, and whether you like it or not, and anyone who comes on and says that they don't see it as a job in some stage, wouldn't be telling the truth. And ultimately, it does become a job, and you have to, especially now for me, it's hugely important that I provide for my family and make sure that we're taken care of. But I think one thing I will say, when you're out on the field, and when you're in training, and when you're in the moment of playing and training, it really doesn't matter. You do think of it as, a passion, and the last thing you think of it as a job. But I suppose, like you said, when you go in, day to day, and when your contract comes up, and then of course you think of that. But I will say, when you're out on the field, it's literally the last thing you think of as a job. It's all about winning. It's all about competing and doing your club or your country proud.
Yeah, and like I said before, I grew up watching, honestly, I was so obsessed with Welsh rugby, and obviously being a girl, there weren't many options to play it, hence why I went into hockey. But for a young boy watching rugby and then going to emulate your heroes, talk to me about that, because I am genuinely so jealous. I think back a couple of weeks ago when the Six Nations got cancelled, I actually ran out in the middle of the pitch and pretended to kick the ball off, and I just can't even imagine. So talk to me, because I want to know how it feels.
Yeah, again.
Come on, Dan, I want you to reminisce. Come on.
I honestly, when you sort of, again, when you're younger and when you think, I always remember, was it at the start of the '99 World Cup when I think we were in primary school, and the lessons were stopped for us to watch. I think it was Wales Argentina, the opening game in the set. I think you're
right. Yeah.
And I suppose you just realise then, you just think that's kind of all you want to do. And I remember Neil Jenkins was playing that day, and you know what? This is going to sound bad in one way, but good in another way, because I've worked with Neil for so long, since I was sort of 15. The first time I met him, I was so petrified of kicking a ball. I was thinking he's going to judge me, he's going to think I'm hopeless, and everything like that. But I've worked with him for sort of 15, 16 years now, so almost sort of emulating Neil doesn't feel as special because I'm so close with him in terms of that. So just to get a chance to work alongside him after watching him in terms of for Wales, and I remember when he played for Cardiff, the reason I went down to watch us, I'm living in Swansea, so we used to go down to St Helens now and again, and the reason we went down to the game against Cardiff was because Neil Jenkins was playing, sort of thing. So that's the type of effect that those types of players have on you in terms of wanting to play and emulate them and have the success. And I suppose when you're actually in the position that myself and others are in now in terms of playing, and you do take it a little bit for granted that there's probably hundreds and hundreds of boys in schools watching games or watching in their local clubs who want to sort of be in a position where they can pull on the red shirt and play for Wales one day. And you sort of, I always think it, because I never think of myself or any of us as teammates and things as people why people want to have photos, or why people want to have signatures, or why people want to think, or why they want to try and play for Wales because we're playing for Wales and things. But then I flip it, and I went to Man United the other day, actually, before all this sort of went mad. And I went into, we were very lucky, we got a contact who comes to the Wales games, who sorted us out in the director's box up there. So we walked into the box, and then on one table was Sir Bobby Charlton, and on the next table was Sir Alex Ferguson.
Oh, now, stop now. Interview.
And then, literally, I took a friend from school up, and I've never felt so much out of my depth in my entire life. And I realised that you could sort of see that, like, that's who sort of we grew up watching and sort of wanting to sort of be like and meet and have a photo. And the first thing we said was, "Got to have a photo with him." So I suppose for young lads in Wales watching, you know, us playing and things like that, I suppose it's on a similar scale, obviously a lot smaller scale than Sir Bobby Charlton and Sir Alex Ferguson. But yeah, I suppose you take it a little bit for granted when you're there in the moment. You never really think you're that person until you meet probably someone like a Sir Alex, and you turn into the biggest fangirl you've ever met, sort of thing.
Yeah, and you will be lots of girls and boys heroes. But do you know what I think what everyone says about you as well is that when you play for Wales, you always play with your heart, you play with your body on your line, and you definitely do play with your body on your line. You have literally, honestly, had so many knocks, which I don't know how you still stand. Is it as painful as it looks?
Some of them are. Some of them have been. Yeah, some of them have been pretty painful when you get a couple of bumps off some of the bigger lads. But again, you know, it's like when you're in that moment and when you're in the, you know, adrenaline and everything like that, it's such a powerful tool. And when you've got little bumps and niggles, you just find, you know, if you were sort of in your garden and something like that happened to you, you're on the sofa for about 10 days recovering from it. But when you're out on the field and you've got that adrenaline and full house and, you know, the game's on the line and things, you tend to just sort of not feel them, and then you wake up the following day and you can hardly walk down the stairs and things like that. But yeah, it's not as bad as it looks and things. And even when you have, you know, touch wood, I haven't had too many bad injuries, but the bumps I've had, it's they haven't been as bad as they probably look. Yeah, but yeah, I think may have to, if I'm going to last a few more years in the game, I may have to just adapt how I play the game a little bit. Perhaps, I'm not sure.
And talking about Wales, obviously, you had one more game to go in the Six Nations, not the kind of results that Wales have wanted, but obviously it's a different kind of era now with Wayne Pivac. Talk to me about that difference, because obviously in the Gatland, we don't need to talk about the success. It's there all to see. How has it been?
Yeah, different, because again, myself, same to a lot of players in that squad, pretty much everyone. The only coach they've had, or the only thing they've known is sort of the Gatland era, or Sean Edwards and Alan Phillips as team manager and everything like that. So it's naturally, if you've had something for that long, when you change, it's going to be a bit of bedding in period and a little bit new. So that's part and parcel of swapping coaches, especially with you know, I refer to a little bit, but going back to the Man United, when, you know, Sir Alex Ferguson had been there for so long, and it's such a difficult job to come in and sort of replace something like that and the success. But I think what I think Wayne's done is, you know, I think if you look at the France game and the England game, we were a couple of moments which were big moments for us, which we just let slip, and a little bit of unluckiness where I think the way we played in the Six Nations, and again, it's very, very difficult in Wales, because for me, I'd rather play 3 out of 10 every single week and win. Whereas a lot of people in Wales sometimes would rather us play 8 or 9 out of 10, attractive brand of rugby, and perhaps, you know, lose a high-scoring game 35-33 or something. So yeah, it's been good. They deserve a bit more credit than probably what they're getting at the minute in terms of how they changed the way we're playing. I think it's going to take a little bit of time, but we've got a young squad. And apart from in the Six Nations, if you look at the games, apart from Ireland, where you've got to hold your hands up and say we were probably lucky to come second that day. You look at the games and you think that the team is moving in the right direction, and there's lots of new faces and lots of new tactics going on. So I think they deserve a little bit more credit probably than what they're getting. And I think in years to come, the longer the team's together, we're going to have more success. Because that's what happened with Warren's teams. You know, the longer we were together and the more comfortable we were with the coaches, with the players, the setup, the schedules and things, the more success we had. And it's up to us as players to learn quick and to make sure that we turn good performances into positive results.
Yeah, I was going to say, I spoke to Adam Jones about when Gatland came in, and what, obviously, on the back of the 2007 World Cup, which was a disaster for Wales, Gatland made the team believe they could win, which over his tenure, he definitely did. Now, the one thing that's missing from Wales's kind of trophy cabinet is that elusive World Cup. Do you think this is now the step up that Wales need? Do you think the change of guard will help you get there?
Yeah, quite. I mean, it's very, very difficult to win a World Cup. You look at you look at the teams that have done it, and you look at how ultimately, I think if you're going to 9 times out of 10, you've got to have the best players to win the World Cup. And you look at obviously the last couple that New Zealand won, they had by far and away the best players. Probably South Africa in the last one, probably just about had the best players. And what these countries, especially the Southern Hemisphere, have got, and they've got a lot of that strength in depth. Whereas if you lose, what we're trying to build, and I think what Warren did really well in his time was he built a lot of strength in depth. So for us now, it's about continuing that. And we've got 4 years until the next World Cup, and it's about making sure that we fill as many positions and as many quality players in each position as we can, so that when and if you get bumps or injuries, suspensions, whatever it is, that we're able to sort of it doesn't really matter who you put out on the field. And I think that'll be obviously in Wayne's mind and moving forward. But I think absolutely, what this coaching group has got is the ability, the excitement to go and make sure that, we're gonna score lots of points. And it's just about making sure that we end up on the right side of those scoreboards as well.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the depth, because Gatland said, in the last World Cup, it was probably his strongest squad, yet there were so many injuries. The same for 2015. Wales seem a little bit cursed, don't they, when it comes to big competition?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, you look at, we trained so hard that summer, and it's just, you can't predict injuries, and you have to plan for best case. But going back in particular to 2015, I mean, it was just literally beyond what was happening in terms of, we lost Rhys Webb and Lee Halfpenny before, John Davis just at the end of the previous season. So you take those three players out of any team, and it's going to be a huge loss. But then we seem to just keep losing player after player after player. And I think if we'd have got past South Africa in that quarter-final 4 years ago, who knows? I got no idea who would have played in the back line that following week against the All Blacks. But it's just one of those things. We've been a little bit unlucky with injuries, but I think we're probably all aware that probably the semi-final against South Africa was a huge opportunity, because you look at the way South Africa played in the final against England, hands down were the better team. There's no doubt about it. Nobody could argue they played exceptionally good rugby, took the game away from England. But probably in that semi-final, it looked, if we're honest, it looked like two teams who didn't want to lose the game, and we're probably happy to squeak, just edge it really. And I think that was probably the most disappointing thing for us, is that we probably just didn't give it enough. And I know you get injuries and bits and pieces, and there's big moments in the game, but I think that's probably a tough moment for us to get over as a squad. But like I said, Wayne's got 4 years now to use the experiences that we've had over the last however many years, and make sure that we're playing an attractive brand of rugby and turn it into a winning style of rugby.
Yeah, and I think that's what, as an athlete, you collect these experiences and etc. and to have a catalogue, don't you, for at the end that you hope will be the full thing, which will hopefully down the line be the World Cup. And I'm sure, I can't even imagine the scenes back here, because we already go mad if we win a game against England. But talk about moments in your career and experiences. There's been a few which you've been part of. Have you got any particular favourites?
I think from a club point of view, when we beat Leinster in 2012 out in the RDS in the final, not so much just because of the win, but because in my opinion, we played probably the best club team, by far the best club team probably in the last 10 or 15 years, in terms of just constantly winning. They won the Heineken Cup the week before, and from all accounts, they put all their their celebration on hold to do the double and things like that. So, and obviously to kick the winning kick from out wide with a couple of minutes to go is, from a personal point of view, really, really pleased. And I think that was something which just sort of catapulted my career a little bit, and just made me, I suppose, believe in myself a little bit, because I always remember I had a couple of kicks before, in a game before that, and I didn't quite execute them earlier on in the season, and I always felt that I was a very good goal kicker, but I wanted to sort of, you always dream of being the kicking the ones to win it, and with the pressure on. So to do that was a big moment for me. And then I think in terms of Wales, obviously winning the winning games is the biggest thing, but probably the 2015 World Cup was the game against England was probably again one that probably again really sort of elevated my game to you know, in a big world tournament, and kicking the winner again it probably just, I actually remember I didn't watch much of it back in the last few years, but I remember watching the kick back a week or two later, and I remember just seeing more so Gareth Davis and Neil Jenkins' reaction when the kick went over, just the fist pumps and the elation and things like that. So I think that was more inspiring for me actually than my reaction, seeing what it means, because you just see, as a goal kicker, the whole game of rugby is so team oriented. You know, you can't play a game of rugby without, you know, your props settling down for a scrum, or your line-out jumpers working to get your good ball off the top, or your centre to crash you over the gain line to give you good front foot ball. But then when it comes to goal kicking, it literally turns into the most individual thing possible, and you're in the middle of a team game where you rely on everybody for everything. So I suppose the games which I remember are the games which I've executed sort of, you know, my sort of strength in to the highest ability, and go from there.
Yeah, and talking about that, we've been speaking for ages, so I'm not going to keep you much longer. But Ronan O'Gara, I don't know if you saw his interview about the pressure of goalkeeping.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, and I thought that was unbelievably honest. Could you relate to any of that, or was it just, you know, his personality?
No, 100%. And again, I think anybody who says they don't know the time left on the clock, or the score, or anything like that, you're so aware of it. And I don't know that a lot of people say they go into an absolute zone and they block everything out. I think, you know, for me, I've never been able to block everything out completely, because just, you know, you're human at the end of the day, and you're aware. And I've lined up kicks where I know that, you know, probably the only way this is going over is if I get a bit of luck. I've also lined up kicks and think there's absolutely no way in a million years I'm going to miss it. So I thought it was really, really interesting, and again honest, because, you know, everyone sees, you know, the results of the goal kicks on Saturday, and for me, I'm actually quite nervous lining up pretty much every kick I take, because I feel like for me sometimes when there's an expectation on sort of, you know, myself to kick every kick, and sometimes that can weigh you down a little bit. But I've just tried to focus as well over the last few years of just being quite mentally tough, and just saying, look, to back your own technique, don't worry about anything else. If you hit the ball well, you've got a good chance of it going over. But yeah, it's a really strange one, because I'm, you know, I wake up some mornings of the game and I'm thinking, you know, I'm not thinking if everybody else gets their part of the game right, because in the game we've trained all week and everything. I think we're aware of it, and a lot of the time I'm thinking, right, I've got to make sure that if I can do my job in terms of kicking 5 from 5 or whatever it is, then it gives us a good chance. If I miss, you know, 4 out of 5 or whatever, then there's a high chance you may not get the job done. So for me, it's one of those where I've had to sort of work at it. It hasn't just come naturally to me in terms of, you know, those clutch moments and things like that. And you know, listening to Ronan O'Gara, who was one of the absolute best at, you know, delivering in big moments and when the game was on the line and things, I thought it was a really, really interesting point he made.
Yeah, and I think going back to that 2015 World Cup, and I think obviously you were elated to a level because of obviously you're playing, but there was also because of your pre-kick routine. What was it called? The Biggarama?
Yeah, something like that. I'm not quite sure. It didn't last too long. I think I was a bit more conscious of it after everyone made a big deal of it. I was trying to be honest, I didn't. Again, I know I said you're not in the zone, but I suppose I was in a zone there where you just don't. I'm quite fidgety and I'm quite nervous anyway. So it was one of those where I was just trying to get myself comfortable and things, and then I'm just so glad that it worked, because if I'd have missed 8 from 8 with that or something, I'd have looked even more foolish. So just really, really pleased that worked. And I suppose it's just something that you are a bit conscious of, and it's phased out now, but it gave everyone a good laugh anyway at the time, and that was the main thing. Did you
realise, so you didn't know that you did it until you obviously got, when social media went mad, and then did you have to consciously stop yourself from just...
maybe a little bit consciously, but I think it just phased out naturally, because I think a big thing was I wasn't expected to be goal kicking during that World Cup, because Lee Halfpenny got injured the week before, so I was probably a little bit more nervous than I would have been normally in pretty big games going on. So I was just a little bit more fidgety, a little bit more trying to calm myself and adjust myself and things. And it probably just, when you went back to a bit more of a, playing for your club and when it's a bit more normal, it probably just phased out a little bit. But like you said, I wasn't really aware of it. I was just probably a little bit more on edge that I was kicking in such a big environment.
Well, Dan Biggar, you've had such an amazing career, not just for Wales, but obviously with the club. Is there anything that you want to tick off before you think about maybe what you're doing on the other side?
I would love to win. I would love to win a Premiership with Northampton, because the league. I want to be able to say that I've won, a Pro 14 and a Premiership, because I think that would be pretty special to do. And I think winning a trophy for Northampton would, a major trophy for Northampton would be huge for me, because it's developed me and helped me so much as a player. And I hope that we can get that done in terms of over the next however many years I'm there. And I think winning something for your club is always a little bit more special, because it's 12 months of the year you put in, you're there working every single day, and it's much more of a squad effort. So if we can win a Premiership, that would be pretty special for me. Yeah.
And I heard a rumour, don't worry, it's not a bad one, that when you want to finish, I hope this is true, that you want to go into acting.
No, I'm not sure who's told you that, but I did do, I think where it's probably come from is I did drama when I was in school, simply because I was hopeless at pretty much everything else in terms of schoolwork and sitting down in a classroom. So basically I did PE and drama in my A-levels, and it was just basically something to be able to get out of not sitting down at a desk writing and different things. So that was it. But I can assure you that Hollywood hasn't got anything to worry about when I finish my rugby career, no doubt.
Well, I'm absolutely devastated with that actual truth there, where I thought I could see you in EastEnders or something. But thank you very much, Dan Biggar. We've been at Home with Dan Biggar. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk about your current situation and reminiscing about Wales and the Ospreys and your time at Northampton. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of lockdown.
Thanks, Beth. All the best. Stay safe, everyone.